When you're ready to start setting up your painting space, there's a few things that you should make sure that you can do. The first thing is make sure that you're on a surface that you can clean up. So this is just a laminate table. Wood tables work well. If you've got a vinyl tablecloth, that works well. And then the next thing, you need a cup of water. You should probably use a cup that's really crappy and you don't care what happens to it. You can use a disposable plastic cup too. These I just got for free and we use them in the classroom. The next thing, you can either use paper towel or an old washcloth. I like an old washcloth because I can use it over and over again. And then you need your acrylic brushes. Your acrylic brushes have blue handles and a sort of yellow tip here. So you probably have at least a large flat brush, a small flat brush, and then a pointed brush, or you have a large and small pointed brush and one flat brush. So here's kind of the tools that you're going to be needing. And then you also need your paint. So you've got this lemon yellow, you have a warm red, you have a warm blue, you have white, and then you have black. Now these are your paints not just for this activity, but also for the first project. So your goal with these containers is going to be to keep them so that you are just using them to get paint out of. You're not going to do any mixing of paint in these. You can do the mixing in your palette, or in this case for today, so that you can kind of see where we're at. You can do mixing on just a scrap piece of paper or a piece of tin foil. So you can see here that I've lined this box with tin foil. Typically students tend to like this the best because it holds all of your paint for multiple days, and you can put wet paper towel underneath. You did get a box, a black box in your kit, and you should line that with tin foil, and that's how I kind of like to mix colors that I'm going to need for a long time. If I'm just mixing colors for one day, I just tend to use a scrap piece of paper because then I can mix my colors on top of them and be done with it when I'm finished. All right, so you labeled your color wheel, but if you haven't labeled your color wheel, we'll do so right now together. Label your primary colors first. There are 3 spots in between each. You need all 3 spots. So red plus yellow is . Now we're moving to tertiary colors, and the tertiary color is the primary name plus the secondary name. So blue is a primary color, violet is a secondary color. So you can just do B-V for blue violet. We're ready to go. Now, on this area in here, these are going to be called your shade or your tints. So you're going to put your lightest color in the middle. So you can see here, you're going to be mixing from your primary colors, all of the colors on here. So you'll start out with your primary colors, and then you're going to mix your tints, and your shades are on the outside. So the middle is going to be primary, and your hues, and then these inside is going to be tints. So tint, hue, and shade. So you have finished labeling. Now it's time to actually start mixing your colors. For today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to start with our colors themselves. You're going to take your blue, and because we're using the pure color itself, I like to just use my flat brush. Now you don't have to fill the whole space, but you're painting that blue right in the hue. Now because my brush is still blue, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some blue, just a little bit, And I'm going to put it on my page here. And I'm going to put it in 2 spots. So I've got blue, and I'm going to put it in 2 spots. Clean my brush. Whenever you switch to a different color, you need to clean your brush off and kind of rub it around the bottom of your cup. And then I like to dry it off a little bit. Now to get your tint, you're going to add a little bit of white into that blue. So you're just trying to get a lighter version of that. Once you're happy with it, grab that color. And you're going to paint it along the middle. Next, you're going to clean your brush. And we're working on our shades. So I'm just going to take the other side of this blue here. And I'm just going to add literally a tiny, tiny drop of black. Black goes a long way in our paint because it's just a really strong color. So I'm just adding a teeny tiny bit of it. I want it to be a little darker, so I'm going to rinse my brush. Grab just a touch more black and add it to it. Now the reason I don't just add black to the white here is because with my white, if I started adding black, which I'll paint this and then I will show you what happens when I add black. So I'm going to just paint my dark blue in here. I don't need a lot of it because I'm only going to use it one time in this activity. So I've got my dark blue. Now, if I went to go add black, black plus white equals gray. So if I start to add black to my blue that's already mixed with white, instead of making it darker, it's just going to turn it into a weird gray color. So you want to keep your black, like your shades and your tints, kind of away from each other and mix them separately. Otherwise, it'll just turn gray. All right, so moving on to my next color. I'll do this with all primary colors, so I'll do this with yellow and I'll do this with red as well. But in order to mix a secondary color, I'm going to make green now. So I'm mixing my secondary green. And what I'm going to do is whenever I'm mixing a dark and a light color, so yellow is light, the blue is dark, I'm going to actually start with my light color. You're always going to start with that light color. I'll make 2 piles of it. So I'm always starting with this light color because it's easier to make something darker than it is to make something lighter. So if I started with a big glob of blue, it would take a lot of yellow to make that into green. So I always want to start with the lighter color because it's easier to change than the darker color. So I'm just going to take a teeny tiny bit of blue because blue goes a long way, remember? And I'm going to start mixing it into the yellow. Now I've got this really nice green. I'll paint it right in the middle here. And then I'll do the same thing that I did with my black and with my white that I did with my blue. So I'll add a little bit of white to this part and I might add a little bit of black to that part. But what if you want to make it kind of go a little bit farther, what I would do is I would take a good chunk of your green over here, so let's kind of maybe draw a line here so I know which side. And if I want to make more of a blue-green, I'll just take some of my green over here, and instead of making green again and then adding more blue, I'm going to just take half of the green that I made before and make the tertiary color, which is a primary color plus a secondary color. So I'm just going to take this part and I'm going to add a little bit more blue to it than there was before. And that makes what we call blue-green. Go. And then I'll, take this half and add, I'll add black to this side and then white to this side to get my shade and my tint. And you're going to do that with all of your colors all the way around. So you're going to start with your primary colors, paint those in, then mix your secondary and tertiary colors and paint those in. You'll be photographing this assignment and turning it in. When it's finished, it will look something like this. You don't have to fill in fully every spot, but you should have most of it filled out. For cleanup, you're going to take any paper that you mixed. If you've got extra paint on there, you could take a clean brush and scoop it back into your paint. You're going to want to make sure that you close up your paint all the time. So you don't want to leave it open because you're going to need it for the quarter and you want it to last. If it's feeling like your paint is getting a little bit dried out, you can always add a couple drops of water or spritz it with water to keep it. And then you're going to put all of your colors up and away. If you've got paint mixed on your tin foil, put it in your box. You can put a piece of wet paper towel underneath it to keep your colors longer, and then make sure that your box is sealed. You can keep your rubber band around it too if that helps. And then you need to make sure that you clean all of your brushes. You don't have to clean them with soap, but you want to clean them so that when you wipe them out on paper towel or when you run them under the sink, they shouldn't have any more paint in them. They should be totally clean. So these clean brushes, you never want to keep storing them in your water for a long time. You want to store them horizontally. And then your cup, you're going to dump out, rinse it out, and then leave it to dry for the next time. All of your painted stuff you can put up high away from other people so that they don't accidentally touch your paint. But acrylic typically takes about a half an hour to dry, so it's not going to be wet for very long.